This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started today, I want to first thank you guys for listening, but I also want to remind you, if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please write us a nice review, give us a 5-star rating. It'd be very appreciated, very helpful. See what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways you can improve, things we can talk about, all that fun stuff. Also, speaking of that, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss, and it seems as if Adam Silver and the top execs and maybe even the top players and top front office people have had a lot of discussions in the past few weeks. Obviously, as we know, no sports, but the NBA is one of the many leagues in not even just in America, but in the world, trying to get started back up again. And there's been a lot of discussions as opposed to how it could get started, where it would get started, all that stuff. But yeah, it seems as if the NBA is running close to a time where they have to say something. Not necessarily that they have to say definitely yes or definitely no, but just in terms of like, all right, we're going to push... I know they already pushed the draft back, if I remember correctly. But we got to... They can't just leave people in the dark. And I mean, not to say that they have to say anything per se, but it would just be nice to hear something one way or the other. Like, hey, we're going to wait till June and then go from there. Or like, oh, we'll set this plan together at this date. Because as we talked about in the last podcast, the MLB seems to have a plan if things start to open back up. Obviously, we don't know... A, if every state's going to do that, or B, how things will go once things are open back up, because obviously the virus takes a little bit of time to show the symptoms, so we really won't know what the effects of opening things back up will be for at least another week or two, at least in these states, mainly like in states in South Georgia, Texas, wherever, have opened back up. But even with that, the NBA has to have plans in place for if they can open back up, or if they can't open back up, and if they can open back up, where are they going to be? Where is it going to be hosted at? Well, I mean, it's not going to be fans, but like stuff like that. And it seems like Adam Silver is having those type of discussions now with his people, and it makes sense. Just because, like I said, there's a lot to discuss. There was a nice piece Adrian Wojnarowski wrote about this whole saga. I mean, I don't say saga, but this whole situation the NBA is in currently, just in terms of the uncertainty. Everything's kind of up in the air right now. But across the league, an overwhelming majority of high-level officials remain encouraged and optimistic that basketball will return this season. He said, still, the pathway remains cluttered. If Silver has learned anything about the virus's impact on the league, it's how the pandemic is forcing leaders to probe contingencies on top of contingencies, rethinking everything and reevaluating it all again. Resist to assign timelines to the major decisions awaiting the NBA. NBA designated May 1st, which would be today, the day you're hearing this. I recorded this last night, but it's the same. You get the point. As the date before which nothing of significance would be decided. Inside and outside the NBA, there's a restlessness arriving with Friday's date, and decisions due sooner than later. As one GM said on Silver's challenge in this climate, it's hard to lead by consensus in a crisis, which is fair. I mean, there's so much uncertainty with everything involving the disease. It's hard for you to pinpoint, like, all right, we'll know by this day or know by that day, because people are still learning the disease every day, it seems like. There's new things, new symptoms or whatever. So it's like, how can these people that aren't doctors be on top of things when like the doctors don't even know everything there is to know about the disease yet? But for now, the NBA is still sorting out possible venues. The MGM Grand in Vegas has been one of several suitors pitching and planning to host the league and perhaps the WNBA too, within 3 adjacent hotels. Sources said some are proposing pod ideas spread across different regions. Team practice facilities have been discussed. The possibility of Disney World in Orlando was discussed, but I think that came up earlier this week. People were starting to bring that up. Where there are basketball facilities and hotels is gaining momentum. Amid the pandemic, sources say fanless games could rely on robotic cameras with closer, innovative angles of the action. Television play-by-play and game analysts could call the games from remote locations. Discussion have included teams keeping essential personnel in the range of 30 to 35, including players on site. Silver's also told teams he remains determined to culminate a championship, which, I mean, makes sense. They've played so many games this year, it's hard. As much as I believe that it makes the most sense to cancel, from their perspective, I understand why they wouldn't want to cancel the season, just because they've done so much. And I know, we'll get to LeBron's tweet in a second, but obviously he voiced his opinions on what could end up happening. Or what he wants to happen, I should say. Between now and then, if the league office has any doubts that decision-making would become painstaking and polarizing during these times, this past weekend reminded them of the scrutiny that awaits every decision. The process of simply reopening practice facilities for players to do brief individual workouts turned into something of a back and forth between league and front office executives. With faculties closed and access to almost anything but private home gymnasiums forbidden, the NBPA shared with the league officials how eager players are to get back in to team buildings. There were fears that the players' exodus to unauthorized gymnasiums as states such as Georgia and Florida reopen. The NBA is, again, trying to get everything sorted out with reopening practice facilities in markets where they're capable of doing so. Officials have shared the broad strokes of a plan in a memo to about half the league's owners on Saturday afternoon of what that would look like. Within a few hours, ESPN reported the details. Almost immediately, the league office felt blowback from teams. General managers spent Saturday and Sunday on the phone with each other and the league trying to understand the purpose, the timing, the safety issues, as well as the alternatives for teams outside of those selected markets. By Monday, following further conversations with teams, the NBA pushed the date back to May 8th for when these things would reopen and sent out a 16-page memo of the different procedures and requirements teams would have to go through. Let's see what else. The Silver has talked about how obviously they're going to need a lot of tests if they do this, which could essentially hurt the rest of Americans just because that's a large... I mean, and you would think by whenever they're starting this, they would have enough tests, but yeah, you never know. The testing thing has been very different from state to state in terms of how easy or how hard it is to get tested, or even like their suppression of results in certain states. So the NBA doesn't want to take up all the testing, but at the same time, the girls are going to need tests, and if they want to get the players. Supposedly, they would need in the neighborhood of 15,000 tests, sources said. And several manufacturers said that they could get them to them without hurting the American public, but there's no, but they can't like guarantee that these tests that they're using wouldn't be better served on the average American. So that's another issue they may have to deal with. And then also the money aspect of it, they've run into any issues if there was a truncated resumption of the season or a full cancellation. Obviously, the return of player salaries for any canceled games under the force majeure clause in the CBA will soften financial losses for owners. The revenue of national broadcasting contracts will still find ways to teams with the future caveats that make good for networks to recoup the lost inventory games of given sponsorships. The NBA expanded its credit facility an additional $650 million up to $1.2 billion to protect cash flow, and it could do so again apparently, which I guess will help mitigate some of those losses. And also, one of the more interesting things, in my opinion, was the fact that it seems as if there's support for the 2020-2021 season to begin in December if they're able to start back up, which is what we've talked about on this podcast, which is what I've discussed, and I think it would be a very good idea. And it's part of the reason why I think other sports haven't officially... This is why I take that back. This is why the NFL, I think, officially never wanted to push the draft back, because if you do that, then you're basically saying that we're not going to start the season on time. And if you do that, then that means the next season is going to be off, and the timeline for everything is just going to be off. But I'm saying if the NBA is okay with not starting the season in October like it normally does and pushing it back 2 months, like it should, in my opinion, then this might be the best time to do it. Because what other time they're going to have other than now in order to get everything going in that direction? So I think it'd be a good idea if they got it started this year, and well, I guess this year for next season. But also, I think it'd just be a good idea in the future, just because it gets, like I said, it adds more to those later summer months where basically it's all just baseball, which is an issue for people that like baseball, but for the people that a lot of people that aren't avid baseball watchers, there's not much else on TV. So this at least would give those people something else on TV. But yeah, it just seems like. And there's more in the article, but and Adam Silver and the NBA are going through a lot in terms of making these decisions. Also, I think there was another report that different teams feel differently about it. I know, like I mentioned, LeBron, he tweeted that all the players and executive he talked to all wanted to resume like the season. But then there's also a report out there that some of the teams that weren't really in the hunt for the championship don't really care if the season's resumed, which, I mean, in fairness to them, I get it. Like, what's the point if you're like the Hawks or if you're like the Hornets or the Knicks or whoever? Like, what's the point of playing a couple weeks just because? And then, like I'm saying, just to go through all this, play like 2 or 3 weeks and then be done. It's like, well, there's no like for them standpoint, there's no point. So I get that. I mean, other than obviously make a little bit of money for the TV games, but you're not getting any fan revenue. All the extra stuff you get from an arena is not happening. So they're losing money regardless. But then from LeBron's perspective, and then I guess like the Lakers, Clippers, Bucks, Raptors, Sixers, who else? Nuggets, even potentially Heat, if they can get on a run. Like, for those teams that have a legitimate chance, there's no way I want the season canceled. I want them to play this out, especially if, like I'm saying, if I'm LeBron and I know I don't have that many chances left to get to a finals and win it, and this may be the best season he has with the Lakers in terms of his health, in terms of Anthony Davis's health, in terms of all the players' health, and like their cohesion and how well they gel together. There's no way I'm having them cancel the season if I have a say. And I feel like LeBron probably does have some say, not a lot of say, but generally speaking, they listen when he says things. It seems like, at least outwardly. I don't know behind closed doors, but outwardly it seems that way. So if I'm LeBron, yeah, there's no chance I want the season canceled. We're the number one seed. I'm pretty sure they're number one seed. Yeah, they're number one seed in the West, at least. Things are going well. The team's gelling. I mean, not gelling, but the team's like playing well. Everything's going smoothly. Why would I not want the season to continue? Especially when a person like LeBron, where it's like every championship he wins or loses adds to his legacy. So it's like if he can get number 4. And I guess I think he'd be the first to get it with 3 different teams. At least I don't know about. I don't want to actually take that back. I don't want to say I think Robert Horry did it as well. So at first, like at least as like the star per se, like most stars get it 1, maybe 2. If you're like, I know Kareem did it with with 2 teams. Not many like Hall of Fame caliber players win championships for multiple teams. That is not a thing that happens. I think even Robert Horry didn't do it because it was the Rockets, Lakers, and Spurs. I think is where he won all his championships. So he didn't even do it in like different conferences. I'm pretty sure. So LeBron could also be the first to do it in like different conferences. No, take that back. Kareem did that, so scratch that. But yeah, regardless, it would add to his legacy if he's able to win a championship for 3 separate teams. That'd be highly, highly impressive. And like I said, who knows what the Lakers will be like next year? You would assume they'd be good, but you don't know. And that's just why I don't know if I said it too much on here, but whenever I talk about this, I like to say, like, you gotta take advantage of your championship window when you have it. And the Lakers are in maybe the best position they'll be in LeBron's time with the Lakers to win a championship. So, like I said, from his perspective, there's no chance I want the season canceled. There's no chance. I can't afford that for me. And for it's probably selfishly thinking this way, but for my legacy, I can't afford to just like not have the season finish out. Because again, they had a legitimate shot. And again, if I'm the Clippers, I think we have a legitimate shot. If I'm the Bucks, I think I have a legitimate shot. Like, it's all the same for those top teams. But again, if you're the bottom teams, I could see why you really don't care one way or the other what happens. But yeah, so Adam Silver and the NBA got some things they have to figure out on their end. Like I said, they got to probably figure out a day soon, because you can't just like have this going on until June and July and with no decisions being made, because eventually you have to start putting plans in place to get things started back up. But it sounds like at least they're going to give it a try, which, I mean, again, I think is a bad idea, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to watch. I will definitely be tuned in, because, again, what else am I doing? There's not really, assuming, I take that back, by like July or August, we might be able to leave our house more regularly to do some things. Not everything, but just like do some things. But yeah, I know, obviously, if they come back, I'm definitely going to watch. It's not like I'm just going to boycott it, but like I said, it's just, there's no way to ensure that you won't get shut down again. And that's my biggest concern with these sports leagues trying to start up, is that like with no vaccine, even though obviously not everybody believes in vaccines, but with no vaccine or any sort of those precautions, it's like you don't know that you won't have this happen again. And then once you get it again, then you got to shut down all over again. That's, like I said, that's worse than not coming back. Coming back and then having to shut down again is worse than just like not coming back and just trying to wait this out till next season. That's again, I've been firmly in the camp of just, this is probably a dub. Like, just let it go. Worry about next year. But from their perspective and the money that's going to be lost, on top of the money that's already been lost, I can see why they want to try to salvage something. And then I said, if you're a player like LeBron or you're Giannis or like you're Kawhi, PG, one of those, like one of the elite players, I think they have a legit shot at getting to the finals and winning. I'm pushing Adam Silver hard to make sure we get back on the floor sometime. It doesn't have to be next month. It doesn't have to be in July. If we can get back on the court in August, hey, it doesn't. If we can, and then obviously make sure everybody's as safe as they can be, then yeah, I'd be all for it if I'm a player, obviously. But we'll see what they have to do. Like I said, Adam Silver's got some tough decisions on his hands. He made the tough decisions in the beginning, but unfortunately for him, they didn't. They continue. They didn't just stop there. So he's going to have more tough decisions to make down the line, and we will see what those decisions turn out to be. Like I said, I know what I would do, but I don't have billionaires breathing down my neck and TV networks breathing down my neck asking when we're going to be able to recoup some of the money that we're losing. So the pressure I feel is a little bit different than the pressure he's currently feeling. So I understand why our decision making might be a little bit different, but again, we shall see how it all plays out. But yeah, so after this break, we're going to come back here and we're going to discuss the NCAA. I mean, we talked about the G League and how they're getting some of these top prospects, and drawing them away from going to college or playing basketball in college and going into this G League program. And the NCAA has made some decisions that may help get people to want to continue to play college basketball, because obviously the biggest thing is they're not getting paid. So they're trying to help add some incentives. That's a good word. Incentives for these players to continue to come to the NCAA and play college basketball for how many every year. So we'll discuss about the new things the NCAA is trying to do for their players and, well, the student athletes, I should say, right after this break. So stay right there.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
So, if you didn't know, the NCAA's top governing body said Wednesday that it supports a proposal to allow college athletes to sign endorsement contracts and receive payment for other work, provided that the schools that they attend are not involved in any of the payments. A working group assembled to evaluate potential ways to modernize the NCAA rules about athletes making money from their names, images, and likeness presented its recommendations to the Board of Governors during its annual April meeting Tuesday afternoon. The recommendations including significant changes to current restrictions, while also leaving room for the NCAA and schools to regulate the types of deals athletes might be allowed to sign in the future. Allowing promotion and third-party endorsements is uncharted territory, Board Chairperson Michael Drake said in a release Wednesday morning. And the NCAA's news release said athletes will be allowed to appear in advertisements and can reference their school and sport, but they could not or would not be able to use school logos or branding in those advertisements, which is interesting. But luckily, since that, we don't really know exactly what all that means, really. There's an article on ESPN that you can look up that kind of just like it's like one of those like frequently asked question like article type things where just like it goes through and answers some of the questions. So I'll run through some of those with you guys, and then obviously we'll discuss them further. But the first question obviously is what's allowed and what's not allowed. And from Tuesday's proposed changes, open the door for athletes to sign endorsement deals with a wide variety of third-party companies. The changes would also make it possible for athletes to monetize their social media channels, which I know was a big thing because the one, I think it was UCF, kicker, he had his own YouTube channel, and they said he was ineligible because he was making money off it. And now I looked it up today, and I think he had two, but the one I think it's called Destroying. I believe he has like 2 million subscribers or whatever. So clearly he's doing fine. And he was only a kicker. I don't know what his chances were of making in the league or doing anything like that. But obviously you can make a lot of money on the internet these days. So it seems to be working out for him, at least. But that's the kind of thing that I guess they'd be able to do now. So yeah, you could profit from writing a book or making a music album or host a sports camp or start a business. Among other potential opportunities, athletes would be allowed to mention their status as a college athlete and the school they attend in the advertising, which is obviously a big thing. The proposed changes do not allow schools to pay players directly, or athletes directly, I should say, or to providing assistance to athletes in setting up endorsements. Athletes would not be allowed to use any school-branded marks in advertisements or wear clothing with school logos. The NCAA would also consider regulations that prohibit athletes from Promoting products that don't line up with the NCAA values, such as gambling websites or banned substances, makes sense. Individual schools will also be allowed to make a list of products that do not match their values and say athletes are not allowed to endorse them. But, I mean, obviously it's a start. And we'll get to what Jay Bills have to say about this later on. But obviously that's a good start, getting guys to be able to sign endorsements before they can leave, before they officially go pro. Is a big step up, and obviously it can be useful for guys. Like it would have been, Zion could have made millions of dollars before he left Duke. I imagine, though, it's not going to be in for this season, if there is a season. Hopefully there's a season. Like guys like Trevor Lawrence, or some of these like big time recruits that like obviously have to stay in school for 3 years. So that's a lot of time to make money if they can get those guys right when they come out of high school. Excuse me. You can get those guys from the beginning, and then obviously they'll be able to make a lot of money. So by the time, I mean, it's going to be nothing compared to what they'll make once they're professionals. But at least they won't be doing all this for free necessarily. I mean, they're not getting paid by the school, but they're still able to make money on the side, which is obviously a big thing for college students. Because even though they obviously get like a little stipends or whatever, they get free tuition, like a lot of perks that they have. Obviously, they don't really have. Not all of them have a lot of just like extra money lying around. And then obviously they can't get jobs or whatever because they don't have the time, or it was illegal. So now these gives them, and then some of these guys are coming from unfortunate family situations. This would also allow them to give back to their family while they're still in college. Hopefully they don't get exploited from their family, because then you hear stories of that happening too. But at least that would allow them to help if they wanted to help. Also, along with that, the question was, can college athletes hire agents? And athletes would be allowed to hire agents and other professionals, accountants, for example, to help them with business opportunities. The specifics about how athletes can hire these types of advisors and what the advisors will be allowed to do is still to be determined. One NFL agent believes this potential rule change will move up the counter for when agents will begin contacting athletes. Her name is, or his name, I don't know if it's him or her, but the name is Leigh Steinberg. Steinberg believes the agent selection process could now begin in high school, which, I mean, that seems kind of self-explanatory. Because obviously, if these guys can sign agents or have agents in college, you have to start the recruitment process in high school. That only makes total sense. You look at the beneficiaries, who the beneficiaries are, I should say, for the one-and-done basketball player. By the time those kids get a brand, they're already in the pros. Steinberg said this will primarily impact quarterbacks or the major superstar. Think of like Johnny Manziel or Tua. I don't know too much about Jameis, but Johnny Manziel could have made a lot of money in college with the whole Johnny football stuff and different different endorsements and merchandise he would have had. Could have made millions of dollars. Obviously, he didn't need it, but he could have made millions of dollars. The anonymous NBA agent agreed with Steinberg when it comes to basketball players that the increased salary for the G League players will still be more appealing to a handful of projects in each class. He does acknowledge, however, there may be enough endorsement money that would come with the visibility of playing for a blue blood program. That is fair. But again, for basketball, it's only going to be 1 year, so it's like the endorsement money could be higher, but then you're getting more money. Like, it's just like whatever you feel like is best for you. Because if you still feel like the pathway program is better for you to get to where you need to be, then there's no reason to do the NCAA thing, even if you can get the endorsements. And there are some kids who just don't want to go to school anymore, which is fair. So they prefer the G League over college simply for the fact that they don't have to focus on schoolwork. But for the ones on the fence, this could help them lean back that way. Because obviously you have big programs like Texas. Oh, well, not necessarily for basketball, that's for football. But for basketball, you got Kentucky, Duke, UNC, Kansas. Oregon's now is becoming a bigger name. Memphis, if they can keep doing what they're doing with Penny down there. Like there'll be a lot of opportunities and a lot of areas for these guys could go and make a lot of money just through the visibility. Then maybe they could potentially make just through the G League guys with the $500,000 or whatever it is that they're set to make throughout the year. But then you have to go to school and you have to deal with that, and maybe they don't want to deal with that. So, like I said, it's not necessarily the simple thing that easy, but it is. It could be a factor. Another thing was when it was going to affect. Obviously, that's going to be very important. Just how soon this will all work. Supposedly, they said that the proposals will be fully drafted by by Halloween of this year. and voted on no later than January 31st of 2021. There's no guarantee that the recommendations made Tuesday will remain the same, nor is there any guarantee that the NCAA leaders will vote to approve whatever is proposed in October. If the NCAA votes to accept new rules, they are scheduled to go into effect no later than the start of the 2021-2022 academic year. So nothing's going to happen this year. So like I said, guys like Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Micah Parsons, Penny Sewell, the left tackle from Oregon. So guys like that are kind of out of luck. Any big-time prospect coming into college basketball this year is kind of out of luck. So it's unfortunate for them, but for the next wave of guys, they'll be able to take part, assuming it gets approved. Because there's no guarantee. Obviously, we got to the point where they'll be able to make a proposal and stuff. There's no guarantee it'll get approved. But yeah, that's just it's an important thing. Just like I was curious to see how soon it would all go down, and it seems like at least it won't be that much long. These guys will have to wait. But yeah, there's a lot of other questions they have in the article as well, including when NCAA football would come back. Obviously, it's been a big talking point for years because the last one was NCAA 14, and you can still, if you have like an old system, you can still play it and just like update the rosters every year, which I know a lot of people do. But again, they've won an actual new game as opposed to playing the old game from 6-7 years ago now. It doesn't seem like that's going to be on the horizon, mainly just because you would need to create a union for the players in order to be able to like collect through the group and split the money that the video game company pays them, and they haven't been able to unionize yet. It'd be a whole mess. So that doesn't seem like it's on the horizon, unfortunately, for sports video games fans out there. But for the athletes themselves, it seems like they'll at least be able to make money on the side. But yeah, as referring back to, as I mentioned earlier with Jay Bills, he thought that this was like kind of just like a tease almost. You could say just like, if they're going to just let them do this, just like let them do everything. Don't just like limit and restrict what they can do, because obviously they're rolling back, but I mean, it's the NCAA. They're not going to just open the floodgates all at once. That would be unreasonable for them. It took them this long to even get to this point, which I'll talk about a little bit why I think they got to this point. But I understand his point, just like, hey, just like, why any more restrictions? Why just not allow them to do whatever and make money however they can while still being a part of the school? But I guess there's, like I said, they want to test things out first, and I assume if things go better, they will roll more things back, and then obviously they'll allow the players more free reign in order to do what they have to do. But I know a lot of people were discussing whether or not the G League thing factored into maybe this decision, and I don't want to say no. I'm not going to say yes wholeheartedly, but I don't want to say no. Just because I do believe that this brought in added pressure on them. Not to necessarily say, I mean, this has been a talking point for years. This is not, the paying players or the fact that they weren't getting paid is nothing new. It's nothing that hasn't already been discussed. But there was no other choice that a lot of these players had. I guess for football, I mean, football still no other choice. But for basketball, I guess you could go overseas, but like that didn't seem like a realistic plan for a lot of these guys. So most guys aren't even ready to leave their home and go to a college town, let alone go to a whole other country and live there for however long they live there and then come back. It just didn't seem like a plausible plan it's not a plausible plan for a lot of high school athletes. But what is a plausible plan is staying in the States and going to the G League so you can get a direct access to NBA style stuff, whether that's training facilities, like workout regimens, dieting, practicing, coaching, stuff like that. That, and like I said, and you're doing that all within the United States, so maybe you're not living where you normally live, but it's not like that much different. It's not going to a whole other country, and you're getting paid. So I do believe that at least added some pressure to them, just because they didn't have anything else forced them to do this. And I'm not necessarily saying that it's direct, like I said, direct cause, but I do think it was a factor. I do think they saw what could potentially happen, because there's only been, like, I think, 3 guys now, so it's not a whole lot of guys. We don't even know what the effects of that decision, those guys taking that path, will be on college basketball, because there hasn't been a season yet. But I do feel like they were thinking of what it could mean, and with that, they're like, all right, let's get ahead of this and try to find a way to help get people back on our side in terms of the players. Like, help them see, like, hey, no, going to college is still a viable and good option, as opposed to just everybody, all the top guys going to the G League. So I think if nothing else, the G League at least provided or kind of pushed that forward. I know they talked about it before, but who knows? They might not have even gotten this far. Maybe they would have shot it down, or it said like, "Oh, we'll think about it next year." But now that they see the G League thing going, and people are actually taking part in it, that I guess might have been the kick in the pants the NCAA needed to be like, "Hey, look, we need to do something, or we're going to lose the guys." And they still might lose them. We don't really know. Obviously, it's still early in this whole process, but at the very least, they're doing something to help mitigate it. They're trying to see, like, hey, look, you can still make money here, and like I said, maybe the endorsements, that might be enough, because you could get millions of dollars in endorsement deals. The G League's only paying you $500,000. So maybe that'd be enough to sway people back on their side. Like I said, the big-time guys could have made millions and millions of dollars during their time in college, especially some of those, especially these, like I said, I'm guessing mainly referring to basketball here. But these high school guys, like Johnny Manziel could have made bank in college if he was able to like monetize and endorse the Johnny Football persona. I don't know if that would have made it better or worse for him in college, but he could have made a lot of money. Zion could have made a lot of money. There's a litany of guys: Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns. I'm trying to think who else was a big. Trae Young could have made a lot of money last year. But yeah, and then, like I said, football-wise, like Chase Young could have made a lot of money this past year. Tua, Joe Burrow. Well, I mean, he probably would. It might have been he wasn't really on people's radar like that, for real. But, like I said, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, there was a lot of people that could have been making a lot of money, or will be making a lot of money in the future. Baker, all those different Ohio State guys, they could have, pick one. Just pick one, doesn't really matter who. But yeah, no. So, like I said, this is something that needed to be done. It's been a long time coming, and it's still not done yet. I know, obviously, it's good that at least at this stage, but still got to vote, still got to get passed, still got to set it up. So we're at least a full year away, if not more. But I respect and appreciate the NCAA for finally taking the steps to do right by the kids. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what it's all really cares about. Just trying to do what's best for them and allow them to make as much money as they can off what they do. Because obviously everyone else around them is making a lot of money on them. So why can't they dip their hand into the pie and get some money out of it too? And still, like I said, still make money for the schools, still make money for the NCAA, everything's happy. Good with that. But at least they'll be able to get some money on their own so they can afford things and help out their families and help them make, like I said, just make their lives a little bit better and get more exposure and stuff like that. But hopefully the issue is that hopefully you have a good support system around you, because these agents will definitely try to exploit you. Because you'll be what? They got to find you in high school, 16, 17, deciding to hire an agent. Like, you don't really understand the game. You don't understand anything like that. And they can easily just sell you on something and be like, oh, you'll get this percentage or that percentage or whatever, and it'll sound good. That's how a lot of these guys get into bad record deals. Because it sounds good at the time for a kid that doesn't have anything, but then you're just like, wow, I should be making a lot more because I do a lot for this school, or do a lot for the NCAA. So hopefully they at least have someone good there behind them to help talk them through this, because if they're just making a decision on their own, it's going to be a shame when we see these young kids get exploited by these agents. But like I said, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, so after we come back, I guess kind of speaking of college a little bit, obviously we know the draft happened last week. And there seems to be a little drama in Titletown. That being with the Packers, not with the Cowboys. Or I guess it could have been the Patriots as well. But a little drama within the Packers, so we'll discuss that and kind of like how they're going to deal with that, or maybe they're going to deal with that at all. Maybe they're just going to let it all play out, see what happens. But yeah, so we'll discuss all the drama and everything going on there right after this break. So stay right there.
I want to talk to you guys about this amazing product I've been using lately called Hydrant. If you're like me and you want to kick the coffee habit, but you're worried about your energy levels depleting, to avoid the morning sluggishness and that midday slump, you need to make sure you're hydrated. It's super important. And that's where I've been using Hydrant. And for 25% off your first order, you can go to drinkhydrant.com and enter promo code GSMC at checkout. Hydrant is basically flavored electrolyte packets you mix directly into your water to make hydrating your body easy and delicious. And what I love about Hydrant, it's backed by research. The formula was developed by Oxford scientists to provide perfectly balanced, efficient hydration. Again, that's drinkhydrant.com and enter promo code GSMC for 25% off your first order. Another really cool thing about Hydrant, there's no synthetic colors or artificial sweeteners. The formula is vegan and you can choose between 3 different flavors or a variety pack. So for all my vegan friendly fellows out there, this one's for you. Again, this is drinkhydrant.com and enter promo code GSMC.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
We are back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Podcast Network. So, as we all know and has been well documented since Thursday, when it happened, the Packers now appear to have the successor to Aaron Rodgers for whenever that may be. And Jordan Love, they drafted him in the first round, traded up to get him too, so clearly they had their eyes on him and they really wanted him. But there's much discussion as to whether that will create some drama within the Packers organization. Because obviously Aaron Rodgers is still there. Aaron Rodgers wasn't spectacular this past season, but he played well enough to get them to the NFC Championship game. It's not like he was a scrub. It's not like he got carried there, though. I mean, you could argue he did, depending on how you feel about Aaron Jones and all that he did for the team last year. But regardless, they drafted a quarterback when many people argue they could have, they needed a wide receiver, but Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst, the GM, decided like, nope, we're going to go in a different direction, and I mean this is fair, and because I mean this is how I feel about draft. Everyone's opinions are a little bit different, but I always feel like don't draft for immediate need. Because that's how you end up reaching, and that's how you end up with busts and stuff like that. Is if the draft should be about now and in the future. In the first round, obviously, do you want a guy to contribute the first year? Yes, that makes total sense. But at the same time, this isn't the only year there's going to be a football season. There's going to be years and years and years that you're going to have this guy on your team potentially. So, all right, you pick a guy that may be you at a position of need that has to step in right away and he's not ready, then that could derail his confidence, that could derail your confidence in him, all that stuff. So you don't want to, like I said, you don't want to pick for a need, but also maybe don't pick a future successor when your quarterback is talked about playing until he's 40 and you're coming off of an NFC Championship game appearance. Hey, to each his own. But, yeah, so then with that comes the question of drama. Apparently, speaking of the drama, apparently not just Aaron Rodgers, but many within the Packers organization kind of pined for a receiver, which, I mean, everyone knew they needed, though they didn't draft one, so, I mean, I'd say everyone knew they needed. Apparently, Rodgers as well as others, were enamored with the top receivers in the class, including Justin Jefferson, who went to the Vikings at 22, so I know that hurt. And as the first round unfolded, it seemed as if after the receivers, because I guess by the time that they picked at 26, 6 receivers had already gone off the board at that point? Not to say they couldn't have picked one, like T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, Denzel Mims, if they wanted to reach for him at that point. They could have, but they didn't. They chose to, like I said, trade up and draft a quarterback. Like I said, trade a 4th round pick to move up 4 spots into the zone. And this is something that they had already planned for. This thing was an option. Apparently, they'd done a lot of work on Jordan Love during the pre-draft process, I should say. But just it's kind of just like, where does it mean? Or what does it all mean for the Packers? Just 20 months ago, Aaron Rodgers signed a $134 million extension that runs through the 2023 season. Yet Gutekunst first stated digging into future quarterbacks last offseason when he held a pre-draft visit for Drew Lock and an eventual second-round pick for the Denver Broncos. Gutekunst comes from the Ron Wolf Ted Thompson, Ted Thompson was the former GM of the Packers, if I remember correctly, School of Scouting, where the importance of quarterback was ingrained. Wolf famously traded for Brett Favre in 1992, and Thompson picked Rodgers when he slid to 24 in the 2005 draft, even when 35-year-old Favre was still playing at a high level, but obviously a little bit different because he'd been flirting with retiring for a while at that point. Wolf taught his scouts to draft quarterbacks as often as possible, taking Ty Detmer in 92, Mark Brunell in 93, Matt Hasselbeck in 98, Aaron Brooks in 99, among others. Thompson did it with Brian Brom and Matt Flynn in the 2008 draft, I should say. I mean, didn't really work out, but so even with obvious holes on their offense, toppled by the lack of a proven number 2 receiver behind Devontae Adams, Gutekunst admittedly weighed the short-term and long-term gains and believed the better value was in the long-term with Love, whether the floor liked it or not, which, interesting, because I hadn't even factored in that LaFleur might not have been on board with this. I assumed he was. A first-round quarterback, in theory, wouldn't help LaFleur get over the hump one iota, but how could a young quarterback fight it? The answer, he couldn't or didn't. Until they know the expectations and they'll embrace the expectations. But when LaFleur took the job, he understood the Packer structure. In terms of player acquisition, it's the same way things operated 13 years under Mike McCarthy, and even back with Mike Holmgren. But yeah, so it was just like one of those things where LaFleur knew it was a possibility, and I would hope Aaron Rodgers did too. Maybe he didn't. But, I mean, yeah. Gutekunst referred to picking Rodgers back then as courageous, and recalled some inside the Lambeau Field offices, including then coach Mike Sherman, were not thrilled about the pick, but obviously it worked out for them, though I guess maybe Mike Sherman wasn't there when they were able to really reap the benefits. And apparently when asked about if he was concerned about upsetting Aaron Rodgers and picking quarterback in the first round, Gutekunst said, no, Aaron wants to win. I think that's the most important thing to him, so he knows we're trying to make the best football decision for the team moving forward, so I'm not worried about that. With all players, you can't control that. Players get happy and sad about all things. I'm not too concerned with that. So I hope if Rodgers read those comments, he took them to heart, because clearly the writing was on the wall that quarterback was definitely on the table in round 1. Whether it should be or should not have been is a different story, but it was clearly on the table. And yeah, I mean, there's more in this. I'm reading this off of ESPN. There's more in this article about different things. But it's just like, how will this relationship work? Between, like I said, it's between, you have the relationship between Rodgers and Love, you have the relationship between Rodgers and LaFleur, and you have the relationship, I guess you can have the relationship between LaFleur and Gutekunst, and then with Rodgers and Gutekunst. Because obviously all these, maybe not necessarily the GM, but the coach and players and have to be on the same page in order to get this team to work as successfully as they can. And if Rodgers not happy about it, I imagine he's not someone that's very shy about, or worried about displeasing people. Obviously, I know there's been the famous rift that he has with his own family. So if that could be an issue where they don't even he doesn't even speak with his own family, I don't think he'll I wouldn't put it past him to cause issues within the organization if he doesn't like what's going on. So that's number one. Number two is like, all right, so even if he's not cool with it, but he gets it, blah blah blah. How much help will he be for Jordan Love? 'Cause I know there was, like, Eli Manning was famous in saying that he did not want to be that guy. He was not a mentor. He was like, I want to be a starter or a bust, or I just retire, like he did. He didn't want to be the guy helping the young quarterback along, helping him get up to speed, helping him with all that kind of stuff. That wasn't who he was. That isn't what he wanted to be. It wasn't what he wanted his legacy to be. So is that the same way Aaron Rodgers is going to be? Is he going to be a guy, like, I know, supposedly I was young in 2005, so I don't know exactly, but it sounds like, looking back on it, Brett Favre wasn't exactly thrilled about it, so I don't know how much help he was to Aaron Rodgers. And maybe that'll help him, or maybe that'll hurt him, because maybe he'll see how Brett Favre treated him, and he'll treat Jordan Love the same way, or maybe it'll be the opposite, where he knows that, like, Brett Favre didn't really take him under his wing. Again, hypothetically, I don't know if this is true or not, but it's hypothetical. If he didn't take him under his wing, maybe Rodgers would be more willing to do that, just because he knows what it's like to be on the outside looking in with your own teammate. But yeah. So I'm saying, like, with that, then it's like, alright, like, do they start to try to push Rodgers out sooner than his contract's up? Especially if, like I said, if things start to go a little shaky this year, like if they don't, like they were a game away from the Super Bowl. If things don't look that good this year, like how soon do you go to Jordan Love? Because again, he's first round pick. He's not going to not play through the course of his rookie contract. Like at worst, probably by year 3, if at worst year 4, he's going to be on the field, whether Rodgers likes it or not. Unfortunately, unless, like I said, unless Aaron Rodgers comes back and wins the next 3 Super Bowls, he's going to be on the field. So with that, like, how does that relationship go? Because obviously if you're Matt LaFleur, you're going to coach Aaron Rodgers. He's a starter, but obviously you want to make sure if something happens, Jordan Love is ready. So how do you balance that? Because obviously last year they supposedly had their own little risk, though it seemed like they worked itself out as the season went along. But they reportedly had their little risk in the beginning of the season with Aaron Rodgers. And I'm like, how does you manage that this year? Because again, you want to make sure you focus on the starter, because Aaron Rodgers is going to be the starter, but you also kind of want to try to bring your rookie along. It's going to be hard to do both at the same time, especially without alienating one of them. Because you can either focus all your attention on Rodgers and Jordan Love is out there trying to figure it all out on his own, or you focus too much on Love, and then it's just like, all right, Aaron Rodgers knows that they're going to try to use him to replace him, but he's not stupid. But at the same time, I don't think the plan was for it to be this year. But it could appear that way. That if something goes wrong, then Aaron Rodgers is going to be an outside looking in. That's why I feel like it could be a reason why. I know Brett Favre came out and said that he doesn't think Aaron Rodgers is going to end his career with the Packers. Or something along those lines. I don't know if that was the direct quote, but something along the lines of he thinks Aaron Rodgers will leave the Packers. Like, he won't have an issue with doing that. And I mean, Aaron Rodgers is petty. Like I said, doesn't speak with his own family. So that would not shock me. And he's like petty enough to go do I know Brett Favre went to the Jets before he went to the Vikings, but do like that kind of thing. Go like the Bears, or not the Lions. I wouldn't. He would never do that. Go to like I say, go to the Bears, or go to the Vikings or something, just to kind of stick it to the Packers and show them like, hey, you guys screwed up. Obviously, I know that's kind of what Tom Brady's doing, but he's not doing it to anyone that's in direct competition with the Patriots. He just went down to the Bucs for the best situation. Not that Rodgers wouldn't do that, but I could see him easily being like, nah, I want to stick it to the Packers and beat them twice a year, every year. So he could end up going there. So yeah, it's just like their whole, how do they manage this year? Because again, if you're the GM, you can't make picks with the fans in mind, or you can't make picks with the players in mind per se. You got to do what's best for the team, whatever that may be. It's a business at the end of the day, and Rodgers knows that. All the players know that. So everybody's replaceable at the end of the day. Unfortunately, no matter how good or how bad you are, you're replaceable. Or how much good you've done for the franchise, you're replaceable. You're not going to be there forever, most likely. And like I said, Aaron Rodgers is realizing that. If he didn't realize it already, he realizes that now. And it's just like, how do the Packers handle it? Like I said, if the next season starts out rough, this could go bad quickly for them. But if it's all good, then like, hey, it doesn't matter. Aaron Rodgers is going to be out there until he's not going to be out there no more. So it just depends on how things go within the season. But yeah, it's just interesting to keep an eye out and just kind of dissect what's all going on, all the different layers of it, because it's very involved. especially if maybe even LaFleur wasn't even on board with this. It was like this was a strictly GM pick. Now you, like I said, now you leaving the coach out there to dry. You got to discuss it with the players and stuff. And he's like, I didn't know either. And then, like I said, he's got to be the one to manage that relationship to a degree. I'm not saying they have to. You're not going to like everybody you work with, no matter what you do. But you got to be. You can't have turmoil within the quarterback room. That'd be a mess. And you also don't want to have to deal with stories leaking out every week about how poor of a mentor Aaron Rodgers is. If that's the case, I'm not saying he will be, but if that is the case, you don't have to deal with that extra thing. You just want to be able to focus on the games. You don't have to deal with all the locker room noise. I also don't want to deal with guys being like, Aaron Rodgers thinking up in practice while Jordan Love is lighting it up, and you start like 3-3, and everyone's like, hey, maybe we should turn to the rookie. Like, you don't want that either. Obviously, I mean, the most recent case, I guess, with this was Mahomes with Alex Smith. Though, I mean, Alex Smith wasn't a lifetime Chief. He hadn't won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. He hadn't won an MVP or multiple MVPs with the Chiefs. Like, there was a different level. And also, I guess, though he wasn't necessarily older, he just couldn't do things Mahomes could do. Like, at best case scenario, I mean, the Packers are hoping and praying Jordan loves Aaron Rodgers, which he may very well not be. The Chiefs were believing that Mahomes could be more than Alex Smith. That's why they got him. So that's what I'm saying. The scenario is a little bit different, but that's like probably the closest thing, especially since people are comparing Jordan Love to Mahomes, potentially, at least in terms of the athleticism and stuff. We'll see what he gets from the field. But they made it to the playoffs again, they lost, but they got Alex Smith out there in a year. I mean, Aaron Rodgers saw that. Like, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the season plays out for them, because there's a lot of different situations they have to handle and a lot of different ways it could go depending on how the season goes. If it goes great, then nothing for Aaron Rodgers to worry about. If it starts off a little shaky, people are going to be... but maybe. I mean, I don't know I don't know what the fan base in Green Bay is like. And people may be calling for the rookie. I know, like I said, Aaron Rodgers, while it wasn't terrible, actually it wasn't exactly his MVP self. So it's not like he's the same player that he was five years ago. And that may be part of it too. So yeah, it'd just be interesting to keep an eye out and kind of just track all the drama and just like what goes on this season with that pick. Because obviously, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers loved it as well, especially did not get any receivers in the draft. But I don't know if he felt that's what they needed to do there. But again, the GM can't make picks with the players' hearts and minds in mind. He has to do what he thinks is best for the team, and if he thought it was Jordan Love, then it's Jordan Love. And regardless of whether it was best or not, he's on the team now. Can't really do much about it at this point. But speaking of rookie quarterbacks and people doing things to maybe appease them, maybe support them, stuff like that, a former Pro Bowl quarterback is now on the open market. He will be joining Cam Newton and Joe Flacco on the open market in terms of guys that are looking for a spot somewhere. So we'll discuss who that player is and what I think is next for him, and as well as Cam and Joe, because they're still not on teams as of this moment. Only Jameis has been signed of the wave of backup former starters that were on the open market. So we'll discuss all that right after this break. Stay right there.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco, ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing, and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
So, the Red Rifle himself, Andy Dalton, has finally been released. It's been a long time coming, unfortunately, for him, but it's a situation where he knew it was going to happen sooner rather than later, and it has finally happened. He's now in the open market, so he's been released after, I believe, 9 years? Yeah, 9 years with the Bengals, the only team he's ever been with. 5 playoff appearances. I believe he was hurt for one of them. He was hurt for the last one, so the 2015 year. He only played 13 games. He got hurt. I think they had to start like AJ McCarron or something to play out that game. That was bad. But yeah, played in 4 playoff games, lost all of them obviously because the Bengals haven't won a playoff game in Lord knows how long. I don't even know how many years it's been, but it's been a while. Let me just put it that way. But yeah, had a good start to his early part of his career. Like I said, 5 straight playoff appearances, including his rookie year. Made a couple Pro Bowls during his time there, but obviously the last couple seasons had all been quite shaky. He hadn't had a winning record since 2015 as a starter, and the Bengals hadn't had a winning record with him as a starter since 2015. I don't like when you put all the blame on the quarterback. And then obviously he was benched last year for Ryan Finley, and wasn't even able to seek a trade. And then obviously they picked Joe Burrow, number 1 overall, so you knew what time it was. And apparently, I guess they tried to trade him, couldn't find a trade partner, much like Cam, and now he is on the open market. So, like I said, not something that is surprising to anyone that has been paying attention to this, which, I mean, if you haven't, can't say I blame you. It is Andy Dalton at the end of the day, and it is the Bengals. Not exactly the most noteworthy team in the league. But, again, if you were, and as I was, keeping an eye on the quarterback carousel in terms of free agents and stuff like that, or guys that could potentially be free agents, and then also the rookies coming in, where they could potentially go, this was definitely a name on the list of guys that could get moved around. I mean, people thought he could go to the... People thought he could go to the Bears, people thought he could go to the Patriots, a couple different places. But... now, at least he's on the open market, so he can seek a trade, or not seek a trade, go and sign with whoever his heart desires. So, with that being said, I figured it would be right to kind of project where he could end up and obviously how that'll affect Cam and Joe Flacco, because, so those, Cam, Joe Flacco, and Jameis were like the noteworthy guys still out there at this point, and obviously Jameis has, notably signed with the Saints for very, very cheap. Basically, just seems like he just wants to one-year internship with the Saints so that he can be better prepared for his starting job next or elsewhere potentially. I don't think it'll be with the Saints, but you never know. Crazier things will have happened in my lifetime if then James becoming the starting quarterback for the Saints. Though, as has been documented, he got the LASIK. Apparently, he was. I think I was reading a quote today that he said that he can read like stop signs or street signs and different things or license plates that he couldn't read before. So just, I mean, I don't know how you play quarterback and your vision's that bad, or how no one convinced him to do that beforehand. I understand he had success in college and stuff with his eyes like that, so I get it. But 30 interceptions should not have been what took you, what drove you to get it done. Like it should have been the fact that you can't see, and you're getting enough money to get LASIK. Well, I don't understand. But hey, maybe that'll actually help. He said it'll help with his depth perception and different things. So maybe that will definitely help. I feel like if your depth perception is off, that could lead to some turnovers. I feel like that's a thing I would not want to. I would want to be as good as possible. My depth perception if I'm going to be a quarterback. But hey, to each his own. But yeah, so then those were the three main. I mean, not the three main guys, but three biggest names in terms of where they could go potentially. But now one of them's off the market. James is out with the Saints. Add in Andy Dalton. Imagine Joe Burrow. Imagine Ricky got cut. That would be crazy. But yeah, so add in Andy Dalton, and now you have a couple different guys for a couple different spots. Honestly, a lot of people were talking about the Chargers being a good spot for Cam, but then honestly they just drafted Justin Herbert. They have Tyrod Taylor. That doesn't make any sense. People were talking about the Eagles for Joe Flacco. They just signed they just drafted Jalen Hurts. So that would be kind of weird because you're not going to keep 4 quarterbacks. Though, I mean, I believe that the roster has been expanded by 2, and the game day roster has been expanded by 2, if I remember correctly, from the CBA negotiations. Or I guess not negotiations anymore, the official CBA. So I guess you could keep 4 quarterbacks, but that'd be kind of dumb. And if you really want to piss off the Eagles fans, do that, because drafting a quarterback in the second round and then signing a veteran backup after you already have a backup in Nate Sudfeld, I mean, how good he is still jury's out, but I mean, there would be no reason to do that. So I know that was an option beforehand, but it's no longer there. And then Cam's just a weird one because he's too good to be a backup, but I don't know what starting jobs available, especially if he doesn't seem like the Patriots want anything to do with him at this point in time, at least. I mean, I don't know why, because I'm not certain Jarrett Stidham is a guy, let alone the guy. But again, I see everything Bill is taking for Trevor Lawrence. So, not the case. Do your thing. Let Jarrett Stidham go out there, potentially sneaking up, and then if he's good, he's good. If he's bad, then you can draft the quarterback. Like so, you got Lawrence, Justin Fields. I mentioned my dark horse Trey Lance. Shout out North Dakota State Bison. Maybe some other guys that could potentially swoop in. There's the Jamie Newman guy, like I mentioned. That's at Georgia now. There could be some quarterback options out there if Jarrett Stidham isn't who they thought he was. But hey, I mean, to each their own. We'll see. I would have definitely signed a vet, but they signed Brian Hoyer because obviously he knows the offense and stuff. But so I'll start with Andy Dalton in terms of where he could end up. I believe Jacksonville makes a lot of sense. If I was informed correctly on the Twitter, Jay Gruden is the offensive coordinator in Jacksonville. He was obviously with Andy Dalton during a portion of his time at the Bengals. His success with Andy Dalton allowed him to be able to become a head coach in Washington. So at least he knows the offense could help mentor a young Gardner Minshew if that's what he wants to do. And then also, if Gardner Minshew isn't that good, then he obviously could easily slide to that starting spot. I don't know how married to Gardner Minshew they are. I mean, married enough to let go of Nick Foles, but also I don't know if he's not good. I don't think they're just going to roll with him the entire year. They're not that married to him. He's a late round pick. He wasn't like a first round pick. They don't have that much invested in Gardner Minshew and his success. So Jacksonville makes sense. I know Denver kind of needs a backup, so that would make some sense because him and Drew Lock. I mean, Drew Lock has a better arm, but like their styles of play are like a little bit similar. Both like athletic enough guys that can make a lot of the throws, and obviously the weapons that the Denver Broncos have out there now. I think Andy Dalton, even still to this day, could do something with them. So that's a good option. I mean, obviously everyone's going to talk about the Patriots, but I don't know. Doesn't seem like the Patriots are that interested in these guys. Though maybe Andy Dalton was the one they were waiting on, which would have been weird. But whatever. We'll see. But from what it sounds like, these things will move very quickly. So I think he'll probably end up in Jacksonville. That would make the most sense to me. Former offensive coordinator. I mean, he's technically a backup, but again, Gardner Minshew's 6th round pick, I believe, if I remember correctly. So it's not exactly they're married to him. They're not. Hey, you have assuming there's a training camp, you beat him out, and then boom, you're back in the starting job again in a division that's definitely open. Like you don't have like a team that's locked in. I mean, the Texans should won the division, but like they don't have DeAndre Hopkins. Who knows what they'll look like? The Colts bringing in Phillip Rivers should help, but maybe it won't. And then who else? Who's the other? The Titans. We'll see if the Ryan Tannehill experiment works now that he's officially signed a long-year deal. Maybe it's just a one-year wonder. Maybe the Tennessee Titans are exactly what he needed. So we'll see about that. So, like I said, I think Broncos and Jaguars make the most sense for him. Now when you go to Cam's a weird one. Just because, like I said, I think in Andy Dalton's case, he probably understands at this point he's a backup. Unfortunately for him. He probably understands he's a backup. But I don't know if Cam's going to think that same way. I mean, he's a former MVP, former number 1 overall pick, and he's still only, 30? He's going to turn 31 in like a week. So, I don't know if he thinks he's at the backup stage in his career just yet. And if that's the case, I don't know where he's going to go. Because there's not that many, there's like basically no starting jobs available. Though, Ron Rivera did mention that he hasn't closed the door on the possibility of bringing Cam Newton into Washington to maybe mentor Dwayne Haskins or take his job. I don't know. Like, I don't know how married to Dwayne Haskins Ron Rivera is. Though he didn't draft a quarterback, so he's somewhat married to him. Or maybe the plan was to bring in Cam Newton. Not that Cam Newton would be a good vet, but I'm just saying, I don't think Cam wants to be the backup just yet, so that's what I'm saying. You have to find a spot, or he would have to find a spot where either he's comfortable, which would be with Ron Rivera, you would think, or where he'll be able to get a starting job, and I don't know where that'd be, or I guess it will, or just like, or maybe his mindset's changed, maybe he's fine with being a backup. I don't know. So I think if he is fine with being a backup, Washington could make some sense, because obviously, like I said, the familiarity there with Ron Rivera, that makes sense. It's the coach you know, coach you've already dealt with. It's not like you don't have to like learn a new style of coaching, learn a new person kind of thing. So that could be beneficial for him. But if he doesn't go to Washington, which I mean they need a vet backup because Dwayne Haskins is only in the second year, Kyle Allen's not that old. They could probably use one, personally at least. But so then if you don't do that, I know I saw something about the Seahawks. I mean, they kind of do need a backup, but again, I don't know if he'll be willing to take that back seat. But at least you could do similar-ish things between him and Russell Wilson. Obviously, Russell's a better athlete, but actually, I don't know, because a lot of this, if you watch the play, a lot of it's just like, hey, Russ, do something great. And Russ is like, all right, I can do that because I'm great. But I don't know if Cam Newton's going to be that same way. Like, their offense seems to... A lot of all their best plays are just Russ running around for his life and then just throwing it up to someone. Like, those are all their best plays on offense. I don't know if Cam has that in him, so that's why I don't know if Seattle makes sense. But I would say for Cam, just like I said, looking over, scouring the market... Though it was brought to my attention, I'm reading this article now, that Anthony Gordon from Washington State is the only other quarterback on the roster behind Wilson. So I mean, they could do worse than a backup than Cam. And obviously, he knows he's going to come in and it's going to be Russ's team. He knows that already. He's not going to be worried about taking the spot. And obviously, maybe him and Russ could be cool. He can learn something from him. And obviously, just be here 1 year. If anything happens to Russ, you can easily step in, and the Seahawks shouldn't completely fall off a cliff. But maybe I do think Washington's still a viable option for him, personally. Just in, like I said, in the scenario of at least he's with a coach he knows and understands and respects and likes. So that can make some sense. But I guess those two will probably make sense to me. And then the last one being Joe Flacco. I mean, he's a weird one because, like I said, the Eagles kind of, sort of, not really made sense. Because he's, like, from the area, but I was, like, I didn't understand the fit, per se, because, like, what he does and what Carson Wentz does are two completely different things. And it'd be Nick Foles all over again, but, like, probably a worse version because, like, you like, if you've, not everyone's a fan of the Eagles and watched the Eagles play. Understandably so. Not if you did. You understand that, like, the offenses look different when Carson Wentz and when Nick Foles were in there. So it'd be like that. Like, you'd have to run. The offense would be nowhere near what it would look like when Carson Wentz was in there if you had Joe Flacco in there. And also, I mean, in fairness, Joe Flacco 35. I did not realize that. He's a little bit older. So maybe he's not really that. Maybe he's not. Maybe he might just up and retire. You really don't know. Apparently, I mean, it seems like he still wants to play. But, like I said, if the Eagles aren't available, then I don't really know where he's going to go because he can't go back to the Broncos. I mean, he just got cut. That would be kind of weird. Where else? Because I'm saying, like, where else could he go? If the Patriots don't want him, maybe the Jets could use a vet backup because they don't have one of those. And, I forgot Joe Douglas that was there was part of the Ozzie Newsome coaching staff that drafted him in 2008. So, actually, no, the Jets makes a lot of sense. No, and if he's seeing the Chargers, that doesn't make any sense. Patriots, it doesn't seem like they're interested in signing anyone. Washington, potentially, if they don't decide to go the Cam route. So I could see that. And then Dolphins, maybe. I mean, he's probably a better backup than Fitzmagic, but I don't know. At least Fitzmagic's been there. Like, why would you give her to him to bring in Flacco? Who's like, I don't know if it's a definite upgrade. So yeah, I forgot about the Jets. So I think the Jets make a lot of sense just because again familiarity with the GM that plays a part. Like again, a lot of decisions are made based on familiarity, and then also obviously you need a backup. And then if not there, then if the Cam doesn't go to Washington, I can see Washington going after Joe just because, again, if he's cool with mentoring Dwayne Haskins, then that works. And same thing with Sam Darnold. Yes, I understand at this point he's not going to be a starter unless something happens to the starter. That makes sense. So they could, with the young quarterbacks, you want to have a vet there in terms to kind of help them through some things. So if the Jets don't work out, then Washington. But those would probably be my two. Or I guess, well, if they don't, Washington doesn't go with the Cam. Because I think Washington could very well go with Cam as long as he's cool with being the backup. Potentially. Because, again, don't know how tied to Dwayne Haskins for Ron Rivera. But, yeah, so if I'm guessing, again, don't know any information. Not an insider or an analyst by any means. But if I'm going, I think Jacksonville and Jacksonville and Denver makes sense for Andy Dalton. Washington and Seattle makes sense for Cam, and then Washington and the New York Jets makes sense for Flacco. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what they decide to do. But those are just, again, my educated guesses. I don't know any more than you guys do in terms of, like, rumors or things of that nature. But, again, these are just based on what's out there, because there's not that many options left out there for backup spots, let alone starting spots. So those would just be my picks. But speaking of starting spots, I thought since the NFL draft is done, we could kind of project forward a little bit into looking into rookies and second-year players that are going to come in and have an impact, maybe even potentially start on their respective teams this upcoming season. Again, fingers crossed that there's one. So first I'm going to start with the rookies, and I would talk about rookies that are going to be under the most pressure, in my opinion, to have an impact this season. Because not every rookie is going to be essential to their team's success this season, but I think there are quite a few rookies, based on where they're picked and who they were picked by, that are going to be very vital to the success or failure of their team this season. So we're going to talk about those guys that have that immense pressure on them right after this break. So stay right there.
Are you looking to get your college football fixed? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
We are back. Here once again with the GSMC podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So this is mainly going to be first round rookies. I tried to just limit it to there. Wasn't really going to go all over because I mean second round rookies are probably going to, in quite a few teams, especially the earlier second round rookies, are going to be very important to guys like Xavier McKinney, potentially like guys like T. Higgins, Michael Pittman. Cole Kemet for the Bears, KJ Hamler for the Broncos, Trayvon Diggs for the Cowboys. There's quite a few second round picks that are also going to be important to the success of their team this coming season. But like I said, I wanted to keep it to first round rookies. So one thing I will say on this list, I'm not going to have any quarterbacks. Because obviously when you got Jordan Love's not going to play unless something happens to Aaron Rodgers. Justin Herbert and Tua may not even start the season. And so with that, there comes a little pressure. I mean, obviously you want to see your first round pick quarterback get on the field and play well. But again, if things don't go well, at least his first season, especially for Tua, as long as he doesn't get hurt, I think they'll be all right. Like I said, I don't know if the Chargers... I think they have a playoff caliber team. I don't know if they're going to go with the rookie to begin with. And I mean, Justin Herbert probably could use a little bit of learning. Not that like Tyrod Taylor's a Super Bowl MVP winning quarterback, but at least he's like been a vet. He's been around for a while. He understands the game. Can help Herbert see things. Because he's not, in my opinion, not a finished product. At the very least. So, and then Tua, like I said, the same similar thing. I don't know. The Dolphins went out and signed a lot of guys, brought in a lot of new people. So you would think they'd be better this next year, but I don't know exactly if they think they're going to be playoff caliber this season. And then, again, as long as Tua looks all right and this comes to the season healthy, then that's all you really care about from this at this point. You're not really that worried about. I mean, obviously, again, no one wants their rookies to play bad, but I don't think that's the biggest concern in the world for them. So I don't know if he has that much pressure. And then Joe Burrow is different because he is the number one overall pick. He is going to be a starter, unquestioned. But at the same time, no one's expecting anything out of the Bengals. So if he's great, icing on the cake. If he's bad, no one really cares. As long as he's not atrocious. You just can't have him be... I mean, even like Jared Goff was bad, and then he got a new coach, and then he was good until he was bad again this year. But at least he wasn't like worst quarterback in the league. Potential number one overall pick bust bad. Like that's what you look like after that first year to many people. And then obviously again had 2 good years after that. Then this year was a little bit up and down, but again at least he looked better than the worst quarterback in the league. But like he was in his first year. So as long as Burrow's not that, then I think he'll be all right. So I don't know if the pressure's that high on him, but. What I will say is that the pressure is high on, I would say, at least 3 out of the 4, if not all 4 first-round tackles. So I kind of grouped them all together. So that's Andrew Thomas for the Giants, Jedrick Wills for the Browns, Mekhi Becton for the Jets, and Tristan Wirfs for the Buccaneers. All for different reasons. Becton, Wirfs, and probably Becton. I don't know what I think the Browns went outside Jack Conklin. So I don't know if their left tackle situation short up for Wills. So maybe he won't have to start. But I know Thomas is going to be competing, if not starting. And whether it's for Nate Solder or it's opposite Nate Solder, I think they only have Cam Fleming on that side. I don't think they draft a guy at 4 not to beat out Cam Fleming. So he's going to be starting. Tristan Wirfs could very well be starting, and he's going to be protecting Tom Brady. So that's on a team that they think they could be something this year. So that's going to be important. If he's bad, that's definitely going to be a problem. Mekhi Becton, similar situation. You have a young quarterback. Well, similar situation to the Giants. You have a young quarterback. The line was bad last year. They want to bring you in, hope you can help solidify that. And if you struggle, especially since he's the biggest of them, if he comes in a little overweight with no real training, that could be an issue. I'm not going to say he is or isn't, but I'm just saying there's no real training camp. There's no way for people to make sure he's staying on the right path in terms of his muscle and his health and his weight and stuff like that. So if that's an issue, he comes into camp a little bit overweight, that'll be a problem. But again, he's another guy who's probably going to have to start this year because the Jets, even though they signed a bunch of guys, their offensive line was not that good last year. So they got to do whatever they can to protect Sam Darnold, especially this year, because it's kind of like a put up or shut up year for him a little bit. It's year 3, and we're still not really certain how good or how bad he is, which is kind of crazy. Because normally 2 years into the league, you kind of have an idea of what these guys are, and no one really has any full idea of what Sam Darnold is. There's still a lot of potential there, but because of the last season with the whole mono situation and everything, it wasn't great. And then outside of him, even Le'Veon Bell does a worse season, and so they need to find a guy that can help open up holes for him. So that's why Becton is going to be vital. And then Wills, I'm not certain if he's going to play this year. But if he does, another situation, they had trouble protecting Baker last year. And obviously if you want him to return to his rookie version or even better than that, you got to be able to give him some time in the pocket, help keep him upright. And if Wills is stuck into a position where he has to do that, then you have to, again, he's going to be under pressure to perform and perform well, because if he doesn't, then it's going to be a problem. And then Baker may suffer the same fate he had last year, and then obviously everyone's going to be unhappy, and then Kitchens might get fired. It'll be a whole mess. So you don't want to deal with that. But yeah, tackles, the first round tackles, again, they were supposed to be very talented, but we're going to find out very soon, because at least a couple of these guys, if not all of them, may end up starting by the time the year is done. So they're under some pressure. Another under some pressure, in my personal opinion, Derek Brown. Now, again, Panthers aren't expected to be anything too crazy this year, but it's mainly just because he could have been Isaiah Simmons. And I think that's going to matter. I'll point that out for another guy later on, but that's going to matter, because people are going to look at that, at least Panthers fans, and not the national people, but the Panthers are going to look at that like, you could have been Isaiah Simmons. And you're not. I mean, it is what it is at this point. There's nothing they can do to take it back. But very rarely do smart, I guess you could quote-unquote, teams take a nose tackle in the top 10. And that's what that's what the Panthers did. So, if he's good, then it doesn't matter. But if he struggles, especially after a guy like Quinton Williams, who many people thought was going to be the next big thing, and he didn't really do another thing, that's another reason why. Another reason why I think Becton's under pressure is because last year's first round pick was a disappointment, so you can't have back-to-back, especially for Joe Douglas in his first draft. You want to hit on that first round. You want to hit on that first guy. Like I said, especially coming off of last year with Quinton Williams. Not to say he's gonna be a bust or he can't improve, but obviously he left something to be desired in terms of from his play last season. So you can't have 2 back-to-back busts will set your franchise back years. So that's another reason why I think Becton's under pressure. But I'm going to say Derek Brown's just under pressure because he has to be, not to say he has to be all pro level or anything, but he can't be, if he is worse than Isaiah Simmons, he can't be like that much worse, because that's a big deal, because that's who they could have picked. It's not like Isaiah Simmons got picked before them and they didn't trade up or blah blah blah, but like he could have been that pick could have been Isaiah Simmons, and now so they're going to need a guy in the middle to take over for Luke Kuechly retiring, and they chose not to get that replacement. And then this time, and teach his own. But I said Derek Brown's going to be under pressure, especially since that pass rush was terrible. Actually, their defense was bad last year. That's why they went heavy on the defensive side, just because they needed to find a way to fix it. But yeah, he's going to be under some pressure. And then even just to stand off that, Isaiah Simmons under some pressure because he's supposed to be this like Swiss Army knife, can do everything. You can play him or wherever. He's like scheme proof or whatever you want to call it. And I believe they're just going to keep him at linebacker, which again, I'm not a defensive coach, so maybe they know better than me. But I'm just saying I would utilize them in more ways than just one. Because I know he said that, like, I'm pretty sure he said that when you have me, it's like having like 3 guys out there. Maybe I was thinking of that quote for somebody else. Or maybe it was, I think, didn't Chase Allen say something like that too? I don't remember. But regardless, Isaiah Simmons lined up everywhere for Clemson. So he's capable of doing that. But will he be put in a scheme where he'll be able to utilize all those skills that he has? Because again, he's able to be a linebacker, able to be a slot corner, able to be a deep safety, able to be a box safety, able to do a bunch of different things. And if, like I said, that a lot of NFL coaches don't like that in terms of like they want somebody that's good. I mean, granted, he's great at a bunch of different things, but they want somebody that you have an idea of where to put them. With Isaiah Simmons, you don't know where to put him, which is good for the defense in terms of they can put him anywhere, but it's also bad because you don't, like I said, you don't know where to put him. Like, is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? Is he a corner? A slot corner? I don't know. But yeah, he'll have to just live up to that billing of being arguably one of the most talented players in the draft. In my opinion, he was. But it's just live up to that billing for Arizona, especially since they struggled, at least from a linebacker in coverage standpoint. He should help with that. So if they're not better with that, then I guess it could make the Panthers look better. But yeah, that's another guy I think is under some pressure to live up to his own hype. Moving down the draft board a little bit, another guy I think is under some pressure is Damon Arnett from the Las Vegas Raiders, just because this pick could be considered by some a little bit of a reach. I mean, I would argue he was not even the second best corner on his own team. That would have been Sean Wade, who decided to return to Ohio State, teach his own. But yeah, so then, like I said, they picked him in the first round, maybe a little high, but he's going to have to come in and perform because, I mean, their defense wasn't like locked down last year, so they definitely used the corner. And I'm trying to look up their corner situation right now just to see if there's a chance that he'll get out there on the field this season. Because I do believe there is. But regardless of that, like I said, you just want to, especially after last year where they picked, obviously, the Josh Jacobs pick, excellent. The Abram pick, he was hurt, and then Farrell got outplayed by a guy in his own position that was drafted much later on. Like I said, just looking back at their corner situation, not great. So there's a chance he could be out there this year. And obviously, again, you don't want him just out there getting worked by AFC defenses, and I guess NFC too. But just, you don't want to see him out there getting worked. So I think he's under some pressure, especially since there's a legitimate chance he could be a starter, if not early season, at some point throughout the year. He's under some pressure. And then another guy saying is under some pressure is Jalen Reagor, the wide receiver drafted by the Eagles. Just because you're going to have CeeDee Lamb in his own division. Got to compete with him. I mean, again, not direct competition, but you're always going to be compared to him because I guess he could have been CeeDee Lamb again, though. If the Falcons didn't want to trade up, they didn't want to trade up. There's not much he can do. But also, he could have been Justin Jefferson because they bypassed him. They let the Vikings get him again. They're different skill sets. The Eagles didn't need a 100-catch guy. They needed a guy with speed and yak ability that can take the top off the defense and open things up underneath for guys like Goddard and Ertz and Sam's out of the backfield, and that's exactly what Reagor can do. And also, again, once he gets the ball in his hands, very electric, very fast, and can take it to the house with ease if he gets a little crease. So that's exactly what their team needed in terms of the speed standpoint, which is why they drafted so many speed receivers. But yes, he's going to be under some pressure because, again, he's going to be compared to CeeDee Lamb in his own division and then compared with Justin Jefferson because again, he could have been Justin Jefferson. But also with that, their receiver situation with the Eagles was so bad last year that he's going to be, I don't know, I'm not going to say he's going to be like the number 1 receiver, but he's going to be at worst the number 3 coming into the year, depending on if Alshon's healthy. And if he's not healthy, and he's on like the PUP to begin the year, he's probably going to be the number 2. And especially when we saw rookie receivers that they could have had last year, and DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin and maybe even Darius Slayton perform well. You kind of want to hope that happens with him too. And like I said, even part of that, they drafted J.J. Arthur-Whiteside last year, and he was kind of a miss, at least for 1 year. I never write anybody off after 1 season. But they can't afford to have 2 misses back-to-back at that position. Because now you're just hanging Carson Wentz out there to dry. And I mean, he was fine last year, but I mean, you can't expect him to throw for 4,000 yards every season without wide receiver over 500 yards. It's just not going to happen. I understand he has 2 great tight ends and a great running back, potentially. We'll talk about that in a second. But, yeah, you can't just count on that every year, just have him carry an offense of nobodies. That's not how it should work. But, yeah, so Jalen Reagor is going to be out there, going to get a lot of opportunity, and hopefully he can make the most out of that. And especially in a city like Philadelphia, just because they're clamoring for a receiver that's good. Like I said, based on what they went through last year, they will take literally anybody. And if Reagor can do some good things, he'll be beloved. But if he starts off the season a little slow, they're going to be antsy. They're going to be agitated. They're going to be annoyed. And it's just not, it could be a bad situation for him. So hopefully he doesn't have to go through that. But like I said, he's going to be under that pressure because if CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson don't going to put that on, the city of Philadelphia is. So, I mean, hopefully, his dad used to play for the Eagles, so yeah, I hope he kind of has an understanding, but yeah, he's going to be in an interesting situation, so hopefully, like I said, he's ready to handle it. Yeah, I think that's good enough for now. There's other guys that are kind of going to be under pressure, but those are kind of the 4 tackles, Brown, Simmons, Reagor. That's enough, our rookies. But there's going to be quite a few more. Those are just some of my guys that I think are going to have a good amount of pressure on them this coming season in order to perform at, like, again, not necessarily got to be all pro as a rookie, Pro Bowl as a rookie, but contribute at a decently high level. Because, again, all these teams are going to need those guys to be an important part of their team, and if they struggle, then the team's going to struggle. And that's not going to be good for anybody involved with those teams. Obviously, their rivals will be happy, but the teams themselves will not be that happy. But speaking of that, let's go to the flip side of things and talk about some second-year guys who I think have the potential to be breakout stars, if you will. I mean, we've seen second-year quarterbacks win back-to-back MVPs. Could have been 3 in a row if they gave it to Wentz, which they should have, but whatever. So we've seen second-year quarterbacks win back-to-back MVPs. So I'm not going to say somebody's going to do that this year, but there's been a lot of young guys that have taken that next step after that first year in the league, and I'm going to talk about some of those guys that I think could be those breakout candidates, if you will. But yeah, so we'll discuss all that and discuss those players right after this break. So stay right there.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
So, I mean, there's a multitude of rookies, or the guy, not rookies, I should say second-year guys, that I think could have a chance to break out. But I only listed 5 that I'm going to talk about. And in my 5, I left off Kyler Murray because he won Rookie of the Year last year. And I mean, again, not that I don't think he's going to improve and get better, but I mean, he was already the best rookie last year. I don't really feel like having him break out is like that surprising. And also Josh Jacobs, he's another guy I left out because he was already the man last year. He can't really get any higher than being the man. Not that, again, he can't improve, he can't stay. His numbers, if he plays 16 games, his numbers should be better, especially with Henry Ruggs out there, taking the top off the defense, keeping guys out of the box to be able to defend the run. He should be good, but again, just because he was so good last year, through the whole season, it just didn't seem right for me to like have him as a breakout candidate per se, because he was already, like I said, very good. But my first breakout candidate that I'm gonna this isn't like a 1 through 5 kind of thing. It's just like listing them in terms of like 1 through 5 is like who I think is going to be the best. This is just like 5 guys in some semblance of an order. But the first guy I'm going to talk about, who is the guy that's probably going to be a popular guy, especially after the offseason and the draft that this team has had. That would be Drew Lock, quarterback of the Denver Broncos. As we discussed, they had a draft that I liked quite a bit. I mean, adding Jerry Jeudy, adding KJ Hamler, adding a center to help protect him, adding Albert Okwuegbunam, his tight end from Missouri, to help go along with the tight end in Noah Fant, who many people think could be great. This should only improve that offense. Already have Cortland Sutton. Or like I said, already have Noah Fant. Added Melvin Gordon, have Phillip Lindsay. Like I'm saying, the pieces are in place to at least find out what Drew Lock is. Because a rookie year is hard to tell whether necessarily, especially when he only played 5 games. You don't really know how good or how bad a guy is just yet, but at the very least, you want to put pieces around him so you know if he's the guy or not. Because if the pieces are bad around him, then you could always say like, oh, he didn't have anybody, he didn't have any help, blah blah blah. So it's hard to really gauge him. But if you put what you think on paper should be good offensive players around him, and he struggles, then you know this may not be the guy that we thought he was. And then if he excels, I should say, and is successful, then he excels. Then boom, you're happy, and then you can keep these guys together for hopefully as long as you can. But I guess that's my thing, and I think that's the biggest thing for the Broncos. They just wanted to find out if they could, and how quickly, is the Drew Lock the guy? Cut Joe Flacco, brought in a bunch of weapons for him. You're going to at least try to find out. Again, injuries can play a part in this, but you're going to at least try to find out if Drew Lock is that dude, or can be that dude for the franchise. And I mean, again, if I'm a quarterback, all I ask for is you to give me weapons on the outside and in the backfield and at the tight end position. That's exactly what they did. So Drew Lock can't be mad, and his agent can't be mad at the family. Like, everyone involved can't be mad about what the Broncos did this offseason to make sure that Drew Lock is in the best situation possible to succeed. So, like I said, with that, we will find out very soon how good or how bad Drew Lock is. So, that's going to be number 1. Also, I guess I'll just discuss his numbers from last year. Like I said, played in 5 games, completed 64% of his passes for over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Went 4-1 in those 5 games. Again, I don't really care too much about the record per se, but it was good. It's good to have wins under your belt. The only team he lost to was Kansas City, which, I mean, hey, they won the Super Bowl, so that's not really that surprising. But beat the Chargers, beat Houston at Houston, who was a playoff team. They beat them pretty easily too. He put up 309 and 3 touchdowns, 1 interception that game. Beat Detroit, who's and then beat Oakland last game of the season. In a close one. But, again, outside of the Kansas City game, every game he had a completion percentage at least of 60%. Threw for touchdowns in every game, but the Kansas City one. Like I said, overall pretty good in those last 5 games of the season once they let him get the starting gig. Obviously, he had the injury in the preseason he had to work through. I think he was on an IR for the first 8 or 9 weeks, so he probably could have been in there sooner. But once they got in there, he was good. So speaking of Drew Lock, another guy I'm kind of high on that I think could be good this year is Noah Fant. tight end for the Broncos. He was in 11 games. Well, he played 16 games, started 11. He put up 40 catches, over 500 yards, and 3 touchdowns, 14.1 yards per reception, which is very good for a tight end. What I mean, obviously, is he has the speed to be that big play guy, 6'4", 250. And like I said, with all the receivers' attention that they're going to be getting, with Sutton out there, who's perennial, who could very well turn himself into a perennial All-Pro guy, and Jerry Jeudy, one of the best route runners in the league. Or, well, not in the league, in the rookie class. No, let me not go that far. That's blasphemous. KJ Hamler, a great slot option, a guy with the game-breaking ability who can get the ball in his hands and take it all the way, no matter where he is on the field. That should open things up for a guy like Noah Fant, because he's not going to be able to get that attention. Or you can't get all the attention because you have to focus on the receivers, because if you leave them one-on-one, then you're definitely doomed. But then also, like, Noah Fant's going to be faster than most linebackers and bigger than most safeties. So he could be a prime guy to have another good season. Like I said, he wasn't bad last year. 40 catches, almost 600 yards, 3 touchdowns. With more weapons on the outside taking attention away from him, you would like to think he could improve. And then even if they want to go 2 tight end sets with him and Alberto. So, like I said, he seems like a good potential candidate for a breakout, I would think. I want to look up his game. I'll just see. Yeah, because towards the end of the season, I want to see how he did once Drew Lock out there. So the first game, not much. The second game, he had 4 for 113 and a touchdown. Next game, he had 2 for 56. And the last couple games, he didn't really do that much, so that is a little fearful, not going to lie to you. He wasn't that great once Drew Lock took over. But also, that was by the end of the season, people knew to focus on him, so maybe that was a part of it. And also, he's a rookie. They're both rookies. They haven't been on the same page yet. But yeah, I just think overall he could be a guy that could break out. Another one I think is Miles Sanders, and I know I was a little uncertain about this one just because he was in the running for Rookie of the Year last year, but I think this year he's going to be the guy. As if you've seen, or if you haven't been paying attention, I'll inform you. But with the Eagles offseason, they haven't brought in that number 2 that could be, because normally the past, I guess since Doug's got there, so the last 4 years, they've been a running back by committee team. Which I got just because they didn't have that guy. Like, the first year they had, like, Ryan Matthews and Darren Sproles. The next year they had, and Wendell Smallwood sprinkled in. Next year they had LeGarrette Blount and Ajayi eventually, then Clement and Sproles, and I think Smallwood again, technically. Then the year after that, they had Ajayi, then he got hurt. Clement, then he got hurt. Josh Adams and Wendell Smallwood. Like, it was, like, their running situation has never been that great. Then this past season was probably the best it's been in terms of talent-wise. They had Jordan Howard, who was good for them until he hurt his shoulder. And then they had Miles Sanders, then they had Boston Scott. That has Sproles too, but he was hurt. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, like, once Howard got hurt and Sanders became the guy, I mean, he just took the mantle and ran with it. I mean, he was doing everything. Running the ball, he was their most explosive and arguably their best weapon over the last, like, month and a half of the season. And not going to say he single-handedly carried them to the playoffs, because, I mean, he was a very big part, and that's not something most rookie running backs would be able to do. I mean, he had 800 yards on the ground, 50 catches, 6 touchdowns in total. And I just think as the guy getting the lion's share of the work out of the backfield, especially on a team where now you have a bunch of deep threats if they all stay healthy, because that's been the issue for the Eagles, is if they can stay healthy, you have a bunch of deep threats that'll make it tough for teams to be able to play a single high safety. So now you're going to have to go to 2 deep in order to make sure they don't get burnt deep. Now it's less guys in the box and make it easier for Miles to run the ball. And then even he's still going to be a great out of the backfield, and even if he goes out on a route, he's still going to be like the 5th option. So he's not going to get like the most attention, and that'll make things easier for him because he'll be able to, hopefully with improved route running, and his hands were pretty good last year, but improved route running, he'll be able to do more, maybe even line up in the slot, not just come out of the backfield. Maybe even line up out wide if they need him to, because I know sometimes you see running backs out wide. But yeah, just do everything and not come off the field, because it doesn't seem like the Rise right now, they just have him, Boston Scott, Clement, and a couple undrafted free agents. They said they're supposedly in the market for another veteran running back. We'll see who that is if they decide to go that route. But as of right now, I don't see anyone's going to really take a lot of the carries away from, a lot of the work away from Miles Sanders. I mean, Boston Scott's going to get his touches. Clement may get his touches, but Miles Sanders is going to be the guy, I believe. And with that, this should allow for a breakout year because he's not going to have anyone getting in his way. But also, again, can't just focus on the offense. So, going to the defensive side of things, I think a guy that could potentially be there is Brian Burns, the edge rusher from the Panthers. Last season, in 16 games and only 5 starts, he had a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, a touchdown, and 7.5 sacks. And 5 tackles for loss and long to go with 16 quarterback hits. So, and then obviously as we saw in the draft, they went all defense. They're trying to do whatever they can to bolster defense. That was definitely a weak spot for them last season. I mean, went out, got a guy in the middle to help clog up the middle, got another edge rusher for them, and Yetur Gross-Matos. You're not just going to be able to, I think, focus on Brian Burns, because I think that's what they've realized is by the end of the season, he's basically their only bit of a pass rush. So, like I said, if just being able to have guys that won't just allow you to focus on him by himself. Oh, I forgot that. Okay, it's Mario Addison. Let me not disrespect Mario Addison and Bruce Irvin. Even though didn't Bruce Irvin get cut? He got cut. I'm 99% sure he did not make it all the way through with the Panthers. So I gotta check his numbers, because that might not work. But Mario Addison, like I said, him, Derek Brown, Gross-Matos, Brian Burns, these forms a little bit better of a pass rush than what they had last year. So I think, again, with all the guys that they added to that defense, he could potentially be a beneficiary of that. That's because, again, he's not going to be able to... Oh, no, is he on the... Oh, okay, let me not... Alright, so I'm looking it up now. I believe Bruce Irvin was with the team the entire season last year. So, yeah, he had... Okay. I wasn't sure. But, yeah, so in the 13 games, he had, 8.5 sacks, I believe? So, yeah, so like I said, but still, 7.5 sacks as a rookie is exceptional. I don't want to say exceptional, but it's pretty good, especially on a defense that was that bad. So, like I said, you would hope he would only improve from there, in a good defensive scheme, and then who knows, guys, could be the limit. And then the last guy I want to talk about is Montez Sweat, obviously of Washington. They could potentially now have up to, I guess they have at least so they got Sweat. They got Chase Young, they got Deron Payne, they got Jonathan Allen, and I feel like I'm missing one. I think, Ryan Kerrigan potentially was the first round pick. I don't remember. I thought someone was saying they could potentially have 5. I don't remember who the 5th one is. But that's at least the 4 I named right there. But yeah, so it seems like they're all in on getting that pass rush better. And Montez Sweat is a guy who had last year 2 forced fumbles, 7 sacks as a rookie, 8 tackles for loss, 13 quarterback hits. So he was good off the edge, and now he's going to be opposite Chase Young. And even though Chase Young will be the rookie, I do believe he'll get most of the attention, which will allow Montez Sweat to have a lot of one-on-one opportunities next year, and hopefully he can feast and improve on the 7 sacks that he got last year. And then again, you got guys like Matt Ioannidis, then Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen in the middle, kind of clogging things up, and then even getting spelled by Ryan Kerrigan off the edge. You would think Montez Sweat would be able to improve upon last year. We don't know for certain, but you would think, like I said, adding a guy like Chase Young, who's going to be that elite level pass rusher, that's going to draw the attention to make life easier for everybody else. Everybody else includes Montez Sweat, so you would think he'd be a guy that could be a beneficiary of Chase Young joining the roster. So we'll see. Obviously, for all these guys, you kind of hope they don't have the little sophomore slump, if you will, where they kind of take a step back and taking a step forward. But these guys will all be in position and all be given every opportunity to excel and quote-unquote break out next year. But we'll see. Obviously, again, we'll have to see how things go, like make sure everybody's healthy, come training camp and all that fun stuff. We got a lot of time in between now and when the season starts. But, again, just like I said, I figured with rookie talk, it makes sense only to look at some of the second-year guys and kind of project forward what we think they could do. Because that's all we can now do is just project and guess based on the information we're given and just based on the information I have last year going in the decisions that were made in the offseason to bolster these different teams in different ways. I feel like those are 5 guys. Again, there are going to be more than these aren't just like the only 5 rookies that are going to do well next year. Potentially, at least. Again, I don't know the future. But there could be very well other rookies that could take that second year leap as well. Not just the guys I named, but these are just 5 I feel like are in the best positions to do those kind of things. But again, not a soothsayer, not a psychic. So we shall see. If I'm right, or maybe there's, like I said, maybe there's some other guys. And if you have some other guys that you think have potentially break out, please let us know. Reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want to reach out at. I'll be more than happy to discuss this with you, debate back and forth, tell me why you think it could be somebody else, and also tell me why where you think Andy Dalton and all these other vet QBs are going to end up, because, I mean, at this point we really don't know. And also tell me if you, think the NBA will make a comeback and how it'll work and when it'll happen. Because, like I said, with the draft done, we don't really have that much to look forward to. They even canceled the Little League World Series, which, I mean, makes sense because they weren't going to be able to have qualifying and then, like, not going to bring people from all over the world here. That would be stupid. But then, yeah, so I'm saying there's not a whole lot, unless you're a NASCAR fan, there's not really a whole lot to look forward to in terms of the form of live sports, I guess. NASCAR's going to have to tide us over for the time being. But yeah, that'll do it for me here today on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast. Now I want to thank you, as always, for listening to me talk and discuss sports. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure I was on top when we drop our latest stuff. If you could please as well, write us a 5-star rating. Give us a 5-star rating. Write us a review. Very appreciated. Very helpful. See what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. As I mentioned also earlier, if you want to debate, you want to discuss things on social media, we are there to do that with you. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, reach out to us. I and my other peers will be more than happy to discuss sports with you, because obviously that's what we do here on this podcast. And before I get out of here, I want to make sure I thank the essential workers out there doing everything they can to make sure people like me and my family and all of our families are healthy during this pandemic. Obviously, it's a very tough time for everyone involved, but they're doing everything they can, and they're working the front lines. They're the ones potentially exposed to this more than anyone else. So I respect all the work they're doing. I know it can be very stressful, very hard, especially during right now, when, like I said, it's there's still uncertainty when now things are starting to open back up. It could be a spike in the numbers and all that stuff. So again, just know guys like me are out there rooting for you, and guys are out there appreciative of all the work you've done, because they know without you guys, we would be much worse off than we already are. So again, thank you for your service, doctors, nurses, grocery store people, all the essential workers out there. Anyone, like warehouse people, just anyone that's helping us do even the daily things that we did not think, or we did not realize how much we needed until, like I said, until we see what's essential and what's not. Like the things we take for granted, these are the people that are on the front lines making sure that we can still have those rights and abilities. So again, appreciate all of that. But that has been my time. Again, I want to thank you for listening. And until next time, I've been Chris Blades, and swoop. Peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.